Hello, Clement229 here with my 3rd anniversary topic video, celebrating 3 years of doing these topic videos. So thank you to everyone who supported the channel, and especially to all the people who have subscribed. Now, as per tradition, this is going to be a Borderlands topic, and oh boy, it's gonna be a bit of a doozy. My very first topic video was about Janie Springs, and I talked about some of the issues with her. But there are so many issues with Borderlands the pre-sequel. Basically, everything about that game has something wrong with it. The story is crap. The gameplay is crap. Like, the whole way the game is made, it's a buggy mess. I've had so many issues from it. It's poorly designed, and holy crap, the DLC is just awful and worthless. I should know. I paid for the season. I pre-ordered the game with the season pass. Because, shoot, I love Borderlands 1 and I love Borderlands 2. So I thought, oh, wow, the pre-sequel, right? It's going to be great. Wrong! The pre-sequel was garbage. Now, this week's topic was submitted by Tumblr Anon, and their topic is how the pre-sequel doesn't make any sense and how the story is a mess that fails to tie into the first and second games. Okay. Now, the concept of the pre-sequel is very interesting. There's a 5-year time skip between Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2. So, a game that takes place in between those games, acting as a sequel to Borderlands 1 and a prequel to Borderlands 2, that hypothetically would fill in some of the gaps that we had before. Because we know a lot of the major events. We know about the fall of New Haven. We know about Jack's rise in Hyperion. We know about the whole messy situation between Jack, Moxie, and Mordecai. We know about, Lilith faking her death. We know a lot of these little details and stuff that are the important things that you need to know going into Borderlands 2. But there's a lot that was just not touched upon in Borderlands 2. So there's plenty of time between these two games to actually delve into that sort of stuff, right? I mean, and shoot, when I first heard about this, oh, it's a midquel that's going to go into these games, like, wow, that's great. Like, this is such a good idea. It is, but it's totally wasted. Though I guess that should be expected when Anthony Birch is involved. And he was the one who caused the problems with Borderlands 2, trying to turn it into some weird, dark game. I'm like, it's this sort of, like, black comedy, fantasy, sci-fi game. It's a shoot and loot type of game. You're trying to make this some sort of, like, grim, dark, serious stuff where anyone can die or something, but it's also comedy? Borderlands 2 has its own issues. It's mostly, like, as a game, Borderlands 2 is great. I love the gameplay of Borderlands 2. It's got a lot of great content. I loved all of the DLC for the most part. And the story is actually pretty good overall. And then you just get to stupid stuff like, here, we just killed off Roland for no reason. We killed off Angel and guys. We completely mutilated and killed Bloodwing, Mordecai's pet bird, and which really ticks me off because I mained, like, Mordecai was who I played as in Borderlands 1, so I have attachment to Bloodwing. Oh, we just killed her off, or killed him, her, whatever. They kept changing it, but they killed Bloodwing off. Why? Well, I guess to make it darker. This isn't talking about the issues with Borderlands 2, but Borderlands 2 is, at the very least, a fun game. I can still go through that entire game. I played through the game twice, including a lot of the DLC, because it's a fun game. And can you compare it to Borderlands 1? It fixed a lot of the issues. The weird level scaling with enemies, or just some enemies just a few levels above you would destroy you for no reason. And weird, like, poor hitbox detection, or sometimes you could have a sniper rifle aimed on like a bandit. You could shoot and shoot and shoot, and bullets would just go through them, but then they would hit them if you're not shooting them. It was a complete mess, and I actually had some pretty tough times in Borderlands 1. I would not have gotten through that game without co-op. But Borderlands 2 fixed a lot of these issues. And Borderlands pre-sequel brought all these issues back. Seriously, I could do a whole video just talking about the BS gameplay in Borderlands the pre-sequel and how it managed to actually bring all of those issues from Borderlands 1 back, despite the fact that it's built off of the Borderlands 2 engine. But I'm talking about the story. But like I said, everything about Borderlands, the pre-sequel, is bad. But the story is so awful. And for a game that seemed to be trying to put forth its, a bigger effort in actually telling a story than the previous games, you would think that they would have put more effort into actually making a good story. But no. Despite the fact that there's so much to actually touch upon between Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2, it almost seems allergic to actually dealing with this stuff, just having all of the stuff either happen off-screen or in the background, or just say, oh, well, this all happened before, even when it doesn't make sense. And this is what I really want to talk about in this video, how none of this stuff makes sense. Okay. The game's story decides to heavily focus on the moon of Pandora, which conveniently makes sure that you're as far away from the actual events on Pandora as possible, because I guess that's... Well, I guess it's an easy way so that you don't actually have to deal with the important stories, but for some reason, a lot of important characters are just on the moon. Moxie's just on the moon for reasons. I mean, technically, you find out in the game that the Underdome is still around, despite the fact that she broke up with Jack, and I'll get to that in a bit, but she's on the moon for some reason. You have Roland and Lilith, what they did with Roland and Lilith in that game was stupid. Like, okay, it's nice and all to see them again and see them before in Borderlands 2. But the fact is that despite the fact that they try to focus, like, Lilith turns in, like, in the modern time, Lilith becomes radically out of character. Someone who is chill and likable suddenly becomes a psychotic monster for literally no reason. Oh, well, she's sad about Roland dying. Except we saw in Borderlands 2, after Roland died, she sucked things up and kept going. But then all of a sudden, a couple weeks later, she just totally has a psychotic break? What? Oh, well, I guess we need to have some conflict in this story, because we can't just have her and Athena get along, even though they work together in the General Knox DLC. But shoot, anything you learn about, anything from Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2 is almost completely inconsequential to Borderlands the pre-sequel. The whole story is framed from Athena's point of view, telling the story about what happened. And it's, for some reason, Brick and Mordecai capture her. Now, this is something that they tried to tie in to into Tales from the Borderlands, because in Tales from the Borderlands, I believe her name is Val. I'm trying to remember. Like, so much of that game is just forgettable, and the other parts are infuriatingly stupid. But it was like Val basically captured Athena, and then Mordecai and Brick took her. But the beginning of the pre-sequel tries to say that Mordecai and Brick seemed like they were heavily injured bringing her in, except we already know that basically they just had a unconscious Athena dumped on them. Continuity, what is that? And this is the one that Anthony Birch was involved in all of these games, so this guy is so incompetent in writing an actual story that he can't even tie in minor elements together. You can't even get little details right, or not even little details. What am I saying? This is something important. The whole framing of the pre-sequel story hinges on this fact. Because some reason they hate Athena now because she helped Jack. But why does Lilith hate Athena for helping Jack when the Borderlands the pre-sequel shows that Lilith and Roland were responsible for giving Jack his robot army? What? First off, this doesn't make any sense. And second of all, even if you're going with that storyline, why is Lilith mad at Athena when Athena was doing less for Jack than Lilith did? And it's not even something like Athena's lying or something, because when this stuff is played out in the storyline, because you do sometimes have people come in and sort of like interrupt the story. And some of these are funny, But, like, you don't ever have Lilith go in and go, that's not true, that's not what happened, or anyone else. Like, no one, like, actually, like, confronts Athena over this, so presumably all of this is true. So then Athena's entire reason for being tied up and threatened to be killed by Lilith makes no sense, because oh my gosh, this entire thing could have just been solved if you just had Athena just hanging with the Vault Hunters after the defeat of Handsome Jack. Even if she did work for him for money, because, I mean, shoot, she lost the Crimson Lance because she kind of went on a killing spree, and as we know from the General Knox DLC, like, it would understand that maybe eventually she would come back to the Vault Hunters after what had happened in Borderlands 2, or just say that she was working with them behind the scenes and we never saw her because she was doing her whole stealth assassin thing. But no, we need pointless drama to try to act like we have a story to tell and some sort of mystery, but no. One of the things that really ticks me off in the game is the way they portrayed Jack, and nothing about Jack in this game makes sense. At first, I thought that there was like okay, the beginning of the game has him be like, oh wow guys, I'm ultra heroic and everything, and at first this didn't bother me because, well, okay, Jack thought he was a hero. Jack always thought he was a hero. He thought he was, even if he was going around committing genocide, he thought he was doing the right thing. So, alright. But then, the game keeps presenting him as a hero. And the whole, like, story tries to present him as, like, a fallen hero who fell to darkness. Like, okay, but you do realize he was evil the entire time, right? This doesn't even gel with anything that we know about his character. One story is the whole thing with Moxie, Mordecai, and Jack. Because as we know from Borderlands 2, basically the spark notes of what happened is that Moxie and Mordecai started dating after he won the Underdome. And he wanted to date Moxie because he was in love with her. And this is something that they show in the game. And his bitterness for her breaking up with him. Well, Handsome Jack comes in, being this suave, rich guy, head of Hyperion. He's got absolute endless pockets of money. And Moxie, being, well, superficial, and feeling unloved in her relationship with Mordecai because, of course, there was a misunderstanding that they expressed love in different ways and that they didn't get it and they didn't talk about it, so drama and stuff. So she leaves Mordecai and gets with Jack because, well, why not? Handsome guy who's got tons of money. Cool. Then she finds out that he's a violent, murderous psychopath. And while everyone on Pandora has killed someone before because you have to do it to survive, she found out that Jack is just a sadistic, psychotic mass murderer. And she's just like, I have made a mistake. And then she leaves Jack. And Jack, being the, of course, psychotic, mass-murdering psychopath, as revenge, destroys the Underdome. Which explains why it's not there in Borderlands 2, and why Moxie is there in Sanctuary. Like, okay, alright, so we have these story elements established to us in Borderlands 2. But in Borderlands, the pre-sequel, they start Jack off showing that he's still sort of low-ranking, because he only takes over Hyperion after the end of the game. Which makes no sense, because apparently he's still hooked up with Moxie, and she still broke up with him off-screen before the game even started, but he's still a low-level Hyperion, like, desk monkey? Or code monkey is what I think they referred to him as. Wait a minute, but Moxie's pretty superficial. The reason why she got with Jack in the first place was because of these superficial reasons. You're telling me that a pretty face from Jack is all that got her to be in bed with him? And not his endless piles of money? Like, she was... Like, Moxie's not that stupid, and she wouldn't go from... Even if she was somewhat unsatisfied in her relationship with Mordecai, she wouldn't go from a hero of Pandora who destroyed the Destroyer, won the Underdome, and is one of the most famous Vault Hunters on the planet, to some code monkey in Hyperion who doesn't seem to have any sort of, like vertical, he has no chance of promotion, really. Because Jack got his promotions through basically killing people. Yeah, the Hyperion basically works on Klingon promotions, but it's like... You're telling me that she left Mordecai for low-level code monkey Jack, broke up with him, but it apparently wasn't because she found out that he was a killer. And if I remember the story correctly, he just set these guys on fire and was just absolutely maniacal about it, just enjoying it. Because this couldn't have happened, because the game tries to portray it as the first time that Jack has actually personally killed someone was the Marif. Because when you kill him, or when he kills the Marif, he goes, "Oh, that feels kind of good." As if he's realizing, wow, killing people is fun. Except, we already knew he was like that before, because that's the reason why Moxie broke up with him. What? And then, when Moxie tries to betray Jack later, Jack is pissed off that she basically tried to kill him. So then he says that he's going to pay the Underdome a visit. What? I'm just, if you know anything about the backstory from Borderlands 2, Borderlands the pre-sequel is just a consistent headache. So Moxie, the reason she broke up with Jack was because he was this evil, psychopathic, mass-murdering villain. Except he didn't become that until, it's explained in the pre-sequel, until after she broke up with him. And he didn't get mad at her until after she tried to kill him, trying to set him up as, oh, well, he wasn't that bad because he was striking back at her for... Whoa, no, we like Moxie. Moxie has her issues. She can be selfish and stuff, and a bit of a slut. Okay, a bit's a bit of an understatement. She's definitely a slut. But we like Moxie. But now you're trying to make Moxie look bad? To prop Jack up? Because, to continue this weird narrative that Jack was some sort of fallen hero? And I believe that Athena literally describes him as a hero and how he falls at the end of the game. Because apparently he only really becomes evil at the end. Even though you see him, killing people. And shoot, if I remember correctly, even when he kills the Marif, it's still something that was portrayed as, the Marif tried to kill him, but then he kills him back, and he fights back. So it's trying to make Jack look nice, and I'm like, okay. The whole point of Jack in Borderlands 2 is that he is an evil monster. He wants to commit genocide of a planet. He wants to kill the bandits, and Pandora is 99% bandits. He wants to kill all these people. And all the people of Pandora who stand against him, and then create his own utopia. He believes he's the hero. And I think one of the trailers before this, for the game, for Borderlands 2, even actually has him talking about how he sees all the Vault Hunters and stuff as the villains. And that he's the hero who's, you can't win, I'm the hero. Yeah, it's because he's got a warped mind. You see the way he treated Angel, his daughter? By abusing her and using her? Which, there's something else to go along with this. And I'll have to talk about that because this is one of the most infuriating parts of the ending of Borderlands, the pre-sequel. Jack was always, even in the backstory of Borderlands 2, ever since Angel was a child, and she's either late teens or early 20s, we don't get an actual age, but he pretends to care about her, but in all honesty, Jack only is using her because of her siren powers. I mean, he basically caused her death, and then he blames it on everyone else, because despite Jack saying he cares, Jack's a monster. Jack killed his own mother. Jack's not a good person. He never was. And Borderlands 2 never pretended that. But then the pre-sequel's trying to twist this and create this whole, oh no, guys, what it actually was like. No. You don't get to do that. You don't get to completely change everything for some weird twisted version of making Jack look better. Yes, Jack is a very popular villain, and I'm not mad that they brought Jack back for this. In fact, Jack's important to the backstory of Borderlands 2. So having Jack play a significant role in the story makes sense, but they're not doing what he did in Borderlands 2's backstory. They're trying to twist this to make him look good, which pisses me off. And basically, any little details that you get in the game, and I can't go into all of it, and I'd have to go through the game to pick out a lot of the issues and a lot of the story beats, but I'll go through a few of the major ones. You have things like the Eye of the Destroyer is apparently the laser thing for, the Eye of Hyperion. Okay, question, how the hell did they get the Eye of the Destroyer? Because I remember watching it, I was like, whoa. So I went to YouTube and I looked up the ending of Borderlands 1. It's like where they kill the Destroyer and it gets sucked back up into the portal, which of course you'd have to question about, what happened with Commandant Steele and everything, but like, how did you get the eye? And apparently, in its entirety, it's not like they ripped part of it. It's like, no, they got the Eye of the Destroyer. And this is supposed to be some big plot twist, because it's like, did you guys even play Borderlands 1? Anthony Birch, did you even look at Borderlands 1 before you went back to write this game? And I think there was another writer, and he's another idiot too. But like, the sheer incompetency in this game is absolutely astounding. But they're trying to tie these things into Borderlands 1. Except you're not even doing that right. I mean, shoot, we don't even get to see like the Underdome. Like, if you want to really, like, you could have capitalized on fandom nostalgia. You could have actually been there to see the destruction of the Underdome, and you would actually get to see a lot of these things with the characters and their relationships as they evolved over the course of some time. And you could have seen a lot of these things, like maybe probably ending at like the fall of New Haven. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of major events that you can touch on with this, especially from the perspective of Athena, which is the one idea that I like. I like her design, but you waste it. And there's also little things like what was his name? Nakamura or Nakayama, whatever it was. It was that scientist who was obsessed with Jack. But he creates like a clone of the Destroyer. But it's minimal. It's a minimized one. It's supposed to be a joke, and I'm like, but I'm sorry, but there's so many stupid storylines and story elements in this that I can't even find that funny. Like, if the rest of the game was well written and you had this stupid little side plot, I'm like, okay, that would be kind of funny. But no. It's like, a lot of little details don't make sense. One of the things that really pisses me off, though, is the ending of the game. And they tried to explain how Jack got his scar, which is always a mystery about how exactly did Jack get the vault symbol, scar on his face. So, alright, okay. So they tried to explain that, except it doesn't make sense. Because Jack gets ended up strapped to this chair. And look, like, the only good actual fun part of the game was the final boss fight, which is so weird that the final boss fight, which actually felt fun, was the only part of the game that I actually enjoyed. Especially everything up to that, dealing with the Iridians and stuff. That was so awful. And there were so many parts of the game that were just so unfun. But okay, I'll try to avoid talking about the actual gameplay, because holy crap, it was awful. But at the end of the game, you have Jack get all of these visions. And this is supposedly something that drives him crazy. But it flashes to stuff from Borderlands 2, and one of the things that you see is him using Lilith to activate the warrior. The Vault of the Warrior. Which is what the plot of Borderlands 2 revolves around. Either they completely didn't even understand the implications, or they did and they just don't care. Okay, his whole plan was to actually use Angel. He wanted to use Angel. That's one of the things he'd been doing with her. That's why he had her strapped in and pumped her full of Iridian. He took Lilith as his backup plan. Lilith wasn't his main plan of unlocking the warrior and using it. Except it shows him seeing this. So why is he surprised? Like, why was he focused for the next several years of using Angel when he saw in a vision that he'd be using Lilith? This just raises so many questions and just makes all the stuff going on with Lilith and Angel just make no sense. Because now he should know that he would end up using Lilith. So why wouldn't his primary focus just be in capturing Lilith? Like, yes, he wanted sirens, but he had one, and Lilith was dead, but she was still on Pandora, and wouldn't Jack, with all of his money and resources, be able to find her? She was still active, she was just the Firehawk. So this makes all the stuff going on with Angel and her death even dumber than it already was. Because he already saw this, and then Lilith comes out of nowhere and just like slaps her face in his hand with this weird vault symbol, and then that's how he got the scar in his face. And then it's after the game where he takes over Hyperion. And then this is supposed to be him becoming the villain. I'm like, I'm sorry, that's not how this works. That's not the story of who Handsome Jack was. So all this stuff, all the story, and I haven't even touched on like half of the issues with the story. Because the actual story, like, I should also talk about the moon. Why is the moon such a huge focal point of the game that it's set on the moon? Outside of just some dumb gimmicks of no oxygen areas and, lower gravity. Shouldn't you be setting it on Pandora, where the previous 2 games were set? To tie it in a little bit better? You would think that that's what you would do, but no, that they set it on this, and then you have this whole story with what's her face, what was it? The doll military. I don't remember what her name was. It was the same place that Axton came from. But she's like the main villain of the game, and I'm like, okay. You're trying to make her this main focus, but she's still bland and uninteresting of a villain. And I'm like, and it's so stupid because they're trying to make Jack look better here. They're trying to make him look like a hero, and you're trying to invent another villain. Okay, but she's not even fun. Like, it's weird because they defaulted back to some of the issues with Commandant Steele. The reason Commandant Steele wasn't that great of a villain was, aside from the fact that, one, you don't really meet her very much in Borderlands 1. I think she only talks to you like once or twice. One of them is indirectly because she's talking to you over like a loudspeaker. She does some bad stuff, and then at the end of the game she starts talking to you, and then it's like, and then she dies. Thanks for wasting Commandant Steele, guys. But the reason Handsome Jack was so good, and the reason why he's made such a big impression on the fans, is because he was funny. He was a fun villain. You have this entertaining, goofy villain who names a horse Butt Stallion after you, who's sitting there eating chips going, hey, I'm gonna kill you later, but right now I'm eating chips. And like, Jack was funny, and he was also interesting because he had this whole hero, savior complex where he thought that he was the hero of the story and all the good guys were actually the villains. People like that because he's actually a fun character. When you distort that, you lose what made Jack Jack. But what's her name? Like, this villain is so forgettable. I can't even remember what her name is. But she's a lot more like Commandant Steele. Like, they tried to give some goofy scenes and some background stuff with her. Like, I think there was one, like, echo about her, like, celebrating one of her men's birthdays or something. And this stuff just isn't very funny. Like, the game isn't funny. The game is not funny at all. I can't recall ever actually laughing during Borderlands, the pre-sequel. When I actually had numerous times in Borderlands 2 that I laughed at some of the jokes. So you lose this factor of what made Jack entertaining. It's like, okay, if you want a villain, come up with something a little goofier and something a little more over the top than whatever her name was. But then this distracts from a lot of the things going on. And it tries to come up with this whole like conspiracy with the Iridians, and like there's this Iridian being that comes in. And I think it's trying to set up some sort of like future plotline for Borderlands 3. But shoot, I don't ever expect Borderlands 3 to be any good, especially with, well, Gearbox's track record. And the people involved not even wanting to admit that Aliens Colonial Marines was a complete and utter failure. So, but it's like, okay, you have this all set up for what? Something that's not even going to pay off in this game? Oh, so is this just a big glorified wait for Borderlands 3? No. And some of the only interesting parts of this game were some of the bits where we got to hear some of the other Vault Hunters interact. Like, I remember you got to hear Gage interacting with some of the other characters who, yeah, that's great. I like that. We get to hear some of the Vault Hunters just casually talking to each other. Yeah, that's cool. I want more of that, because we actually didn't get as much of that from Borderlands 1 or 2. Borderlands 2 did a little bit better with that, especially when it came to the Borderlands 1 Vault Hunters, where they actually got to have some great interactions and, well, more personality than they had in the first game. But even then, Borderlands, the pre-sequel, actually screws all of that up, too. Brick and Mordecai, for some reason, totally trade personalities. Like, it was portrayed that Brick was the one who would go after and want revenge and kill people. And then Mordecai, well, he wanted revenge for Bloodwing, which is something very personal to him. He was generally a lot more laid back and chill. But then in the pre-sequel, Brick is the one who's trying to... Like, Brick and Mordecai are trying to, like, dissuade Lilith from vengeance. And I'm like, both of them have displayed wanting vengeance. And Brick, we know, I killed some guy who betrayed them in New Haven. I don't remember what his name. He's just some, like, minor NPC in the first Borderlands game. I'm like, okay, so both of these guys have portrayed some signs of revenge, but Lilith, literally the most chill character in the games, is the one who goes fully insane with the rage and revenge. But then Mordecai, who would probably understand this more, and like they don't agree with it. Like a lot of the Borderlands 1 Vault Hunters are just portrayed out of character. And so if you're fans of these characters, you don't even get them in their personalities here. And it's like this doesn't even make sense, saying that they were shocked by the death of Roland or something. Well, because Roland's death doesn't even make sense in the first place, because he should have come through a new U station. But Anthony Birch realized this and was like, well, we're just going to scrub him from canon. Except in Borderlands 1, it's actually part of the beginning of the game where you have to sign up at you see. The pre-sequel is a complete and total mess. It was a mess. It was a big fat mess. And this is just the stuff that I remember. Like, I have not played Borderlands the pre-sequel since the game came out. And I played through the whole game. And I hated it. As someone who's a fan of Borderlands, I hated that game. And as someone who cares about stories, I was consistently infuriated every time I was getting to any kind of story beat, just because of how stupid it was. And this isn't even getting into a lot of the stupid stuff. Like I've talked about Janie before. Janie has her own issues in the story. But I do actually have to question, like, if she worked with Jack, then why did Jack let her be stranded? And Jack supposedly, like, likes her work. It's like you're trying to portray him as some sort of hero, but he's not, except he leaves Janie stranded there, and Janie herself has so many issues. And I could, well, okay, I would say could do a video on her. I did do a video on her, but there are so many little issues with all the stuff in the games, even like cameos from other characters, like Sir Hammerlock. Sir Hammerlock's cameo is stupid, because it's basically just going, by the way, guys, did you know that I'm gay? Except, okay, the whole thing, I like him in the first, Borderlands 2 because he's an actual character. because his journey to fulfill the almanac, his whole, research and archaeology and smart and studying stuff, and the fact that he was this smart, cool guy who was also a dork. Oh, well, his sexuality is all there is to him that they really mention. Like, I can't even remember anything else about his little side mission in Borderlands, the pre-sequel. It's like, anything that was established in the other games, irrelevant. Borderlands, the pre-sequel, only makes even a remote amount of sense if you've never played the other Borderlands games. Which is stupid, because it's calling itself the pre-sequel. It's supposed to be a sequel to Borderlands 1 and a prequel to Borderlands 2. To bridge the games together. Except it doesn't even want to touch any of this stuff, because all of this stuff happened off screen. And even the stuff of trying to set up the whole getting rid of the claptraps, which is a significant event for Claptrap in Borderlands 2, because he's the last Claptrap left. I'm like, even that's not even remotely satisfying, because the whole Claptrap DLC is stupid. And then, okay, now I need to talk about some of the Vault Hunters. Okay, Athena makes sense as a Vault Hunter. I like her and her role in Borderlands, the pre-sequel. I like freaking Wilhelm in this. They actually did something interesting with Wilhelm, because he was boring and stupid in Borderlands 2. He was a non-entity. And for a guy who was supposedly so massively important that he was the guy who was there, fighting to destroy New Haven, and he's the guy who beat the Vault Hunters, he goes down like a wimp. And they cut out the whole thing where Jack killed him, but why would you kill one of your strongest guys on the offshoot of a chance that you might get back at the good guy, or in his ideas, the bad guys? Because I just kind of assumed that this was like some sort of weird cyborg clone of Wilhelm, which would have been a better idea. But it's like, but I like what the pre-sequel did with Wilhelm, because they made him an actual character. It's one of the few good things that they actually did. But then you have Claptrap as a Vault Hunter. What? This isn't even funny. Like, when they say that Claptrap has a mistake, yeah, it was a mistake. Having Claptrap in the game is one thing. Okay, we would know that. He's a popular character, and he's consistently been in Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2. But to make him a main character, for what reason? Popularity? Just because? Oh, but then they have to completely scrub all this anyway. So, excuse me. So that they can explain why he's not a Vault Hunter in Borderlands 2. It's trying so hard to work out of what canon established. It's just like, then why even do it? Why not replace him with a character like Michael Mamero, who is a Vault Hunter from Borderlands 2, who is named after a fan of Borderlands that died? Why not actually give him some sort of role in the game? Which I would have loved that, because I always liked Michael Mamero's character. Everyone likes him. He always gives you nice stuff when you find him. That would have been a great way to sort of acknowledge his character, and you'd be like, okay, but he did all this stuff, this is how he got his start as a Vault Hunter, or something like that. But no, Claptrap. It's stupid. And they have to go out of their way to try to explain how he became a Vault Hunter, and then they have to go out of their way to try to explain how he unbecame a Vault Hunter. It's overcomplicating something that shouldn't have happened in the first place. And then no one else seems to acknowledge this. Because you see all these other people would have met him as a Vault Hunter, and no one acknowledges this in Borderlands 2? Well, yeah, because it never happened. Till the pre-sequel decided it did. Why even bother keeping in continuity? Why not just establish this is an alternate universe? That would have solved a lot of these issues. Another problem is Nisha. I talked a bit about Nisha and Jack's relationship in a previous video, but Nisha herself was very poorly handled in the pre-sequel. Well, it's nice to see some flirting between her and Jack, and that we actually get some of her relationship with him. The way that she was portrayed was awful. It's like, Jack calls her a bandit who kills bandits. Okay, first off, Jack has such an absolute hate boner for bandits, he wants to kill all of them. Nisha is not a bandit. Nisha's a mass-murdering psychopath, but she's not a bandit. She hates bandits too. This is kind of why she and Jack got along. Nisha had her own twisted sense of law and order, and all of these obscure hundreds of laws that if you didn't keep to them, you were killed. And the whole thing about Lynchwood is that she had all these stupid laws that she would kill anyone who so much as stepped a toe out of line, because she had this weird obsession, which also works with Jack's obsession with his own version of order, which is killing anyone he doesn't like. And it's obviously why he and Nisha were together. Okay, that makes sense. But why establish her as a bandit and then as a vault hunter? She doesn't like vault hunters. This is one of the few things they establish about her in Borderlands 2. She doesn't like vault hunters. So now she was a vault hunter? It's like, I have to bring this up again and again. Did you guys even play or just look over any of these things from the previous games? And Athena? Okay. I remember seeing this stuff in the game, and they tried to establish that the Crimson Lance assassins, being all women, was something that like they were established as an all-women group because they were trying to combat like Admiral Mikey's like negative attitude towards women. Because if you don't know, Admiral Mikey is like a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old child who, due to nepotism, ended up as an admiral giving orders to grown adults. This is one of the things that drove General Knox absolutely insane in the Knox DLC. That he was taking orders from a literal child who couldn't even comprehend what was going on. So then they started the Lance to establish for so that people didn't think they were being sexist. Okay. The problem with that is that Athena is an adult and they were taken as children and basically brainwashed into being assassins. It's like everything I've read about the Lance assassins doesn't make any sense here. Because if this was established, then that means that Athena would have been an adult. She's at the very, at least in her, late 20s, probably. Thereabouts. So you can't have a literal child be the source of the reason if they were kidnapped as children. And it's like, I start anytime you try to read into any of the, explanations for this stuff, none of this makes sense. And it's like, in any chance that they had to actually develop a lot of this stuff, doesn't make sense. And it pisses me off, because I was so excited about the pre-sequel, and it was nothing but a huge turd. So I think that's about it for this topic, because I am just totally fed up with talking about the pre-sequel for now. So if you want to submit a topic to me, you can either comment below if you're on YouTube, or if you're on Tumblr, send me an ask and do topic : then whatever topic you want me to talk about. Just make sure to follow the rules that I'll be posting down below. If you want to watch last week's topic video, you can check that out here. If you want to watch next week's topic video, you can check that out here when you get that done. And if there's any issue that you had with Borderlands the pre-sequel, please comment below. And thank you for watching.